The transport ship hummed softly around us as it glided through the blackness of space, the faint vibration in the deck plates a constant reminder of just how fragile the thin walls were between us and the cold vacuum outside. I sat rigidly in my seat, staring out of the viewport at the stars streaking by, lost in thought and fighting to keep my breathing steady. Across from me, the crew of this mission lounged casually, chatting in low voices, completely at ease. Most of them had been off-world dozens of times before, but this was my first deep space assignment, and the knot of tension in my gut had been steadily growing since we'd left orbit. She sat beside me, her presence impossible to ignore. Lieutenant Kayla Drix, mission specialist and the kind of person whose confidence seemed to fill a room. She was taller than me by an inch, with silver-white hair that shimmered faintly under the cabin lights and eyes the color of molten gold. She wasn't human, not entirely. Her species, the Arvex, had been allies of Earth for only 2 decades, but already they served alongside us in mixed crews. I'd never worked closely with one before. I kept my gaze fixed on the window, trying to ignore the way her laughter made my heart race for reasons I didn't fully understand. The transport jolted slightly as it adjusted course, and Kayla turned toward me with a grin, clearly noticing how tense I was. "You look like you're about to pass out, rookie," she teased, her voice carrying that musical tone unique to her species. "Relax. It's just a routine drop-off. Nothing's going to happen." I forced a smile, but my throat felt tight. I wanted to tell her that it wasn't the mission making me nervous. It was her. More specifically, it was what my neural implant had been whispering in the back of my mind ever since we'd met 3 weeks ago. The implant wasn't supposed to whisper. It was a standard-issue device for interspecies communication, translating Arvex speech directly into my thoughts and smoothing out cognitive dissonance caused by alien social cues. But ever since the day I'd first shaken her hand, there had been static. Strange pulses of half-formed words, fragments of images I couldn't quite see, emotions that weren't mine. It was like someone, or something, was trying to speak through the implant. I hadn't reported it because I couldn't explain it, and because part of me was terrified of what it might mean. My hands were clenched tightly on my knees, hidden beneath the long drape of my uniform jacket. I told myself to breathe, to just get through the next few hours without doing anything stupid. Then the ship shuddered violently. The overhead lights flickered as alarms blared, and the crew's relaxed chatter turned instantly to sharp commands. "Impact detected," the pilot shouted from the cockpit. "Micrometeor swarm, shields holding at 73%. Kayla was on her feet in a heartbeat, moving with that inhuman grace her kind possessed. "Reroute power to forward deflectors," she ordered. Even though she wasn't technically in charge, no one questioned her. That was the thing about Kayla, when she spoke, people listened. I scrambled up after her, my pulse hammering in my ears, trying not to get in anyone's way. The deck lurched again, throwing me forward, and I stumbled into her. She caught me effortlessly, her arms strong and steady around me for a fraction of a second before she pushed me upright. My implant flared white-hot with static, and for an instant I saw something impossible. An alien landscape of black glass towers under a crimson sky, and a massive silhouette with eyes like twin suns staring directly at me. The vision vanished as quickly as it came, leaving me gasping. "Are you hurt?" Kayla asked, her golden eyes narrowing in concern. I shook my head mutely, unable to speak. She gave me a brief nod and turned back to the others, issuing more instructions. Somehow, she always seemed completely in control, even when everything around her was chaos. Within minutes, the pilot managed to navigate us out of the meteor field, and the alarms faded. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief. Kayla, however, didn't sit back down. Instead, she came to stand directly in front of me, studying me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "You were shaking," she said quietly, so only I could hear. "More than just fear. What did you see?" My mouth went dry. Nothing. Just adrenaline." Her eyes narrowed further. "Don't lie to me." The urge to confess everything nearly overwhelmed me, but I bit it back. "I'm fine," I insisted. After a long moment, she nodded, though I could tell she didn't believe me. She sat back down beside me, closer this time, her warmth radiating against my side. The cabin gradually quieted as everyone returned to their stations. I focused on keeping my breathing steady, terrified that if I let my mind wander, that vision would return. Then, without warning, she shifted in her seat and looked at me with a mischievous smile. "You're still trembling," she said softly. "If it'll help you calm down." She paused and then, to my absolute shock, added, "May I sit on your lap?" My entire body went rigid. The words echoed in my mind like a gunshot, overlaid with a burst of incomprehensible static from my implant. For a heartbeat I couldn't move or speak. She tilted her head, clearly confused by my reaction. "It's a gesture of comfort among my people," she explained, as if that made it perfectly normal. "When someone is frightened, physical closeness helps stabilize their neural rhythms. I thought humans did something similar?" My mouth opened, but no sound came out. She had no idea. No idea that the simple act she was suggesting could trigger the buried memory locked inside my implant, the one I'd been desperately trying to ignore. That vision of the crimson sky and the burning eyes wasn't random, it was connected to her species, and to me. Somewhere deep inside, something alien stirred, and I felt a pressure building behind my eyes like a storm about to break. "No," I croaked finally, forcing the word out. I'm fine." Her smile faded into a frown of confusion. "Did I offend you?" she asked softly. "I meant no harm." I shook my head violently, panic rising. "It's not that," I managed. Please don't." She studied me for a long silent moment, clearly struggling to understand. Finally, she nodded and shifted back slightly, though the hurt in her expression cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to explain, to tell her that this wasn't about her personally, but how could I? How could I explain the impossible truth, that ever since we'd met, I'd been receiving messages through my implant, warnings that made no sense, all centered on her presence. That vision of the alien landscape wasn't a hallucination. It was a memory. Not mine, but something older, something vast and terrible trying to break free through me. I turned my gaze back to the stars streaking past the viewport, my fists clenched so tightly my knuckles ached. Whatever was happening, whatever secret my implant was hiding, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. If Kayla ever touched me like that, if she ever sat on my lap as innocently as she'd suggested, the barrier holding back those memories would shatter. And when it did, I wasn't sure either of us would survive what came next. The rest of the journey passed in a tense, suffocating silence, my mind spiraling in endless loops of fear and questions I couldn't answer. Kayla didn't speak to me again. After that moment, though I could feel her golden eyes on me now and then, sharp and searching, as if she was trying to solve a puzzle she hadn't realized she'd been handed. Every time her gaze brushed mine, the static in my implant flared like a low, warning growl, and I had to bite down hard to keep from flinching. I focused on my breathing, counting each inhale and exhale, trying to calm my racing heart, but deep down I knew it was only a matter of time before everything unraveled. When the transport finally dropped out of FTL and entered orbit around Epsilon Theta Prime, everyone on board seemed to relax, except me. The planet below was a swirl of green and gold, its atmosphere glittering like liquid crystal in the system's twin suns. It should have been beautiful. Instead, my gut twisted at the sight, as though something buried deep within me recognized this place and recoiled. The crew disembarked quickly, eager to begin their survey mission. Kayla stayed close to me, her presence looming like a shadow, and every step we took down the metal gangway made the pressure in my head worse. I didn't know how much longer I could keep my secret. The landing site was a flat plain dotted with alien ruins, massive stone structures half buried in sand, their surfaces carved with symbols that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. As the others spread out with their scanners, Kayla and I were assigned to map the largest ruin at the center. The instant my boots touched the ancient stone, the static in my implant roared to life, a deafening wave that made me stagger. Kayla caught my arm, her grip firm and grounding. "You're pale," she said quietly, concern etched across her sharp features. "Tell me what's wrong." I wanted to push her away, to run, but the warmth of her hand against my sleeve sent a pulse of foreign emotion crashing through me, longing, grief, fury. Images flooded my mind in rapid succession. Armies of silver-skinned warriors kneeling before a massive throne, a sky tearing open to reveal a monstrous shape, Kayla's face twisted in sorrow as she reached for me across a battlefield drenched in blood. I gasped and yanked free of her grip, stumbling back. "Don't touch me," I shouted, my voice ragged. The rest of the crew glanced over, startled, but Kayla held up a hand to keep them back. Her expression was unreadable now, her golden eyes glowing faintly. "You're seeing something," she said, her voice calm but edged with urgency. "Tell me." "I don't know," I rasped, clutching my head. These aren't my memories." The moment the words left my mouth, I knew they were true. The visions weren't random hallucinations. They were memories, ancient and alien, bleeding into my mind through the implant. Kayla's jaw tightened. "Describe what you saw." I hesitated, then spat out the images in a rush. The armies, the throne, the tearing sky, her face. At that, her entire body went rigid. "That's impossible," she whispered, almost to herself. Those events happened before my species ever made contact with yours. Before your people even left their homeworld. She turned back to me, gripping my shoulders so tightly it hurt. How do you know these things? I don't. I shouted, my voice breaking. I don't want to know them. The static surged violently, and I collapsed to my knees, screaming as a new wave of images slammed into me. This time there was sound, a deep, resonant voice speaking in a language I didn't understand, yet somehow comprehended. The vessel approaches. The lock must be opened. The cycle begins anew. My vision went black for a moment, and when it cleared, I was lying on my back, staring up at Kayla's terrified face. He's the key, she was saying to someone behind her. Get him to the ship now. Rough hands grabbed me, hauling me upright. I struggled weakly, but my limbs felt like lead. What's happening? I croaked. Kayla, what's happening to me? She didn't answer, just ran alongside as the crew half-dragged, half-carried me back toward the transport. My implant was still buzzing, though softer now, like a predator lying in wait. By the time we reached the ship, the sun had begun to set, painting the ruins in crimson light. The sight made my stomach twist. It was the same sky I'd seen in the visions. I froze on the gangway, digging in my heels. No, I whispered. This place, it's wrong. We shouldn't be here. Kayla turned to me, her expression fierce. You're right. Something ancient lies buried here, something my people have spent millennia trying to contain. But somehow it's connected to you. To your implant. My mind reeled. Why me? For the first time her composure cracked. Because you're not just human. The words hit me harder than any physical blow. What? I breathed. She hesitated, then spoke quickly, as though afraid the truth might tear itself free if she didn't force it out. Your implant isn't malfunctioning. It's unlocking. Long ago, before the Arvex and humans ever met, a fragment of my people's genetic legacy was hidden among your species, scattered across the stars, lying dormant until the cycle began again. You are one of those fragments. The vessel. I shook my head violently. No. That's insane. Is it? She shot back. You've seen things no human should know. You felt me before I touched you. You froze when I asked to sit on your lap because some part of you remembered what that intimacy would unleash. You know I'm telling the truth. My mouth worked soundlessly, denial warring with the undeniable weight of her words. Deep inside, something ancient stirred in response, a memory not my own, whispering agreement. What does it want? I whispered. What's going to happen to me? Kayla's gaze softened, though fear still lurked in her eyes. It wants to return. To open the lock and free itself. If it succeeds, it will consume everything, your mind, your body, this entire planet, maybe more. That's why we have to stop it. How? I demanded, my voice rising. How do we stop something like that? She hesitated, and in that hesitation, I heard the truth she didn't want to say. We don't, I realized, my chest going cold. You don't want to stop it. You want to stop me. Her silence was answer enough. Rage and terror surged through me, lending strength to my weak limbs. I tore free of the crew's grip and stumbled back, glaring at her. You knew, I accused. You've known this whole time and you were just waiting for the right moment to, what? Kill me? Use me? Protect you, she snapped, her voice ringing with desperation. You think I want this? You think I wanted to care about you, only to learn you might destroy everything I've sworn to protect? Her hands trembled, and for a heartbeat, I saw the vulnerability beneath her warrior's facade. I asked to sit on your lap because I wanted to comfort you, she whispered. Not because of duty or prophecy or the cycle. Because I care. My heart twisted painfully, but I couldn't afford to believe her, not now. Behind her, the horizon split with a sound like shattering glass, and a column of crimson light erupted from the ruins, painting the sky in apocalyptic hues. The static in my implant became a roar. Kayla whirled toward the light, her expression one of pure horror. It's awakening, she breathed. Then her gaze snapped back to me, fierce and determined. We have no more time. You either come with me willingly or I'll carry you myself. I stared at her, at the woman who might be my only ally, or my executioner. The ground trembled beneath our feet as the column of light grew, and deep within me something answered its call. For the first time, I understood why I had frozen when she'd offered that simple, innocent gesture. It wasn't fear of her. It was fear of myself. The ground heaved beneath us as if the planet itself were alive and angry, and the sky burned crimson like an open wound. My implant howled in my skull, a ceaseless roar of alien voices chanting in a language my conscious mind couldn't fully grasp, but my blood seemed to understand all too well. I staggered backward, clutching my head, while Kayla lunged toward me with a speed and grace that should have been impossible in the low gravity. She caught my wrist in a bruising grip, her golden eyes blazing with a mixture of terror and determination. "We don't have time to argue," she shouted over the rising cacophony. "If you stay here, it will claim you completely and everything will be lost." Her words struck through my panic like a knife, but another voice rose inside me, older and deeper than my own, whispering that she was lying, that she was the threat, not the thing awakening beneath the ruins. The crimson column of light in the distance flared brighter, and the ground split open, revealing vast black structures beneath the sand, machines so ancient they made the ruins on the surface seem like toys. My vision blurred as two realities overlapped, the present day and a memory that wasn't mine. In the memory, those black machines were whole and humming with power, armies of silver-skinned warriors marching in perfect unison as a figure cloaked in living shadow sat upon a throne at the center. That figure turned its burning gaze on me, and though its face was hidden, I knew it knew me. "Vessel," it said, and the sound of that word inside my head almost shattered me. I collapsed to my knees with a strangled scream. Kayla dropped beside me, grabbing my face between her hands and forcing me to look at her. "Stay with me," she begged, her voice cracking. "Fight it. You are not just a vessel, you are human too. Remember who you are." Her touch sent a shock through me, the static in my implant spiking so violently that for a moment I felt like my skull would split open. And then clarity. Not complete but enough to focus. My vision steadied and I saw her face clearly, strong, fierce, beautiful in its alien sharpness. She wasn't lying when she said she cared. I could feel it, raw and unguarded, bleeding through whatever mental barrier my implant had partially unlocked. "Kayla," I croaked, my voice barely audible. "Why me? Why was I chosen?" Her expression twisted with anguish. "Because your people are descendants of ours," she said quickly, the words tumbling out as though she'd been holding them back for too long. "Long before humans were human, my species scattered fragments of our essence across the galaxy to ensure survival of the cycle. Most bloodlines remain dormant forever. But sometimes one awakens. You are that awakening." The truth hit me like a physical blow. "So, I'm part Arvex," I whispered, stunned. She shook her head. "Not exactly. You are human, but you carry within you a key, a genetic resonance that can unlock what lies beneath this planet. The lock was built to contain the entity, the thing you've been seeing in your visions. It's not alive the way you or I are. It's hunger given form, a devouring will that once consumed entire civilizations. My ancestors fought it and trapped it here at unimaginable cost. But the lock needs a living vessel to open. And now it senses you." Even as she spoke, the crimson light surged higher, and the chanting in my head became deafening. I realized with horror that it wasn't just in my mind anymore. I could hear it with my ears now, echoing across the plain. The other crew members were shouting, some trying to flee toward the transport, others frozen in terror. The machines beneath the sand were rising, vast spires breaking through the surface like the teeth of some monstrous creature. Kayla grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to focus on her. "Listen to me. If it fully awakens, nothing in this system will survive. I swore an oath to prevent that, even if it meant killing you. But I don't want to kill you. I want to save you. You have to come with me willingly before it's too late." My heart pounded wildly, torn between the sincerity in her eyes and the seductive whisper in my mind promising freedom, power, and understanding. The entity didn't speak in words, not exactly, but I felt its intent. It was ancient and vast, and it knew me in a way no one ever had. It promised to erase my fear, to make me whole, if only I opened myself completely. "Why should I trust you?" I demanded hoarsely. "You admitted you were ready to kill me." Her expression crumpled, raw pain flashing across her features. "Because I care for you," she said fiercely. "Because when I asked to sit on your lap, it wasn't strategy or manipulation. It was me, Kayla, the woman who has fought beside you and laughed with you and wanted, just for a moment, to give you comfort. I didn't know then how dangerous it was, but I swear on my life my feelings are real." The memory of that moment came back to me, sharp and vivid. The warmth of her presence, the innocence of her request, and my terror at what it might unleash. I realized then that my fear had been a warning, not against her, but against myself. If I let her close, if I accepted that comfort, the barrier between my human self and the vessel would shatter. The entity wanted that closeness because it would allow it to take control completely. "You were right to stop me," she said softly, as if reading my thoughts. "If we'd crossed that line, we wouldn't be standing here now." A tremor shook the ground so violently we both nearly fell. In the distance, the crimson columns split into multiple tendrils, each lashing out toward the horizon. Where they touched, the very air seemed to warp and burn. The voices in my head rose to a fever pitch, and for a moment, my body moved without my consent, taking a step toward the light. Kayla yanked me back with a desperate cry. "No. Don't listen to it. It's so loud." I screamed, clutching my head. "It wants me, Kayla. I can't fight it forever." Her face hardened with resolve. "Then I'll fight it for you." Before I could react, she pressed her forehead to mine, her hands gripping my face. A surge of golden light burst between us, and suddenly my implant wasn't just translating her words, it was connecting our minds completely. For a heartbeat, I saw her memories as clearly as my own. Her childhood on a distant world of crystalline forests, her rise through the ranks of the Arvex Defense Forces, the secret missions to keep the entity contained. I felt her love for her people, her grief for those she'd lost, and most shocking of all, her love for me. The entity roared in fury, slamming against the walls of our shared mind, but Kayla's presence held firm. "I won't let it take you," she vowed silently. "You are not just a vessel. You are mine." Tears burned in my eyes as I clung to her mental presence like a lifeline. For the first time, the voices receded slightly, though they still clawed at the edges of my consciousness. "What do we do?" I asked aloud, my voice shaking. She pulled back just enough to meet my gaze. "We run. There's a containment facility in orbit, built by my ancestors. If we can reach it, we might be able to sever your connection to the entity permanently. But we have to leave now." Behind us, the crew screamed as one of the black spires fully emerged, towering hundreds of meters into the sky. At its peak, a shape began to coalesce, vague, shifting but undeniably aware. Its gaze fell on me and my implant flared so violently I nearly blacked out. "Vessel," it intoned, the sound reverberating through the air and the earth alike. "Come to me." My legs moved against my will, but Kayla wrapped her arms around me from behind, anchoring me in place. "Run," she shouted to the others. "Get to the transport. Now." They didn't need to be told twice. As they sprinted toward the ship, Kayla half-carried me, her strength the only thing keeping me from succumbing entirely to the entity's pull. Every step felt like walking through a storm of knives, my own mind trying to tear itself apart. The transport's engines roared to life, and the hatch loomed ahead like salvation. Behind us, the ground split open completely, revealing a vast, abyssal maw filled with writhing crimson energy. The entity's voice shook the air, its hunger palpable. "Vessel. Vessel. Vessel." With a final desperate surge, Kayla threw me up the ramp and followed, slamming the hatch closed just as a tendril of crimson light lashed past, scorching the metal. The ship rocketed skyward, leaving the nightmare behind, at least for now. I collapsed on the deck, gasping as Kayla knelt beside me, her face streaked with sweat and determination. "We made it," she said hoarsely. "But this isn't over. It will follow us. It will never stop." I stared up at her, my body trembling, and whispered the only question that mattered. "Kayla, what if it's right? What if I am the vessel, and there's no stopping what's coming?" She cupped my face gently, her golden eyes fierce. "Then we'll change the cycle," she vowed. "Together." And for the first time, a spark of hope flickered amid the terror. The transport ship surged through the upper atmosphere, its engine screaming as Kayla pushed the controls to their absolute limit. I lay on the deck, every muscle locked in agony while the entity's voice echoed inside my skull, a relentless chorus that vibrated through my bones. My implant flared with pulses of crimson light under my skin, the glow so bright it cast faint reflections on the polished metal walls. Kayla knelt beside me, one hand gripping the control stick while the other pressed against my chest, sending calming waves of energy through our link. "Stay with me," she shouted, her voice raw with desperation. "You're stronger than it. Fight, damn you." Her face hovered above mine, fierce and beautiful even amid the chaos, her golden eyes burning with unshakable determination. I wanted to answer her, to tell her I was trying, but the words caught in my throat. The entity's whispers had grown more insidious now, less like noise and more like seduction. It didn't shout, it coaxed, speaking directly to the part of me that had always felt out of place, the part that had never quite belonged among other humans. "You are not theirs," it murmured in 1,000 voices at once. "You are mine. Come home, vessel. Fulfill your purpose and end the suffering of all worlds." Images flooded my mind, galaxies folding into a singular point of perfect stillness, endless war and pain erased in a final moment of unity. It promised peace, understanding, belonging. And deep down, some fractured part of me wanted it. I gasped, shaking my head violently. No. I rasped, the single syllable tearing from my throat like broken glass. Kayla squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt, grounding me in the present. Listen to me, not it, she demanded. That thing has been manipulating minds since before either of our species were born. It feeds on trust and desire, twists them into chains. Don't let it use you like it used my ancestors. Through the haze of agony, I clung to her voice like a lifeline. Slowly, painfully, the entity's pull receded just enough for me to focus. Kayla, I croaked. Tell me the truth. Everything. No more secrets. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. You deserve that much. She kept one hand on the controls as she spoke, her voice low but urgent. The entity wasn't always a monster. Once, it was a collective intelligence spanning thousands of worlds, a living network that connected civilizations. But over millennia, it began to consume rather than connect. My people, the Arvex, were its most devoted servants. We called it the Chorus. When it turned on us, we tried to sever our link, but by then it had merged with our very biology. Entire cities fell overnight, their populations absorbed into its will. Only a handful of resistors survived, and they built the lock, sacrificing themselves to trap the entity on that planet. But even imprisoned, it reached outward, planting seeds of its essence in distant species to ensure its eventual return. Your kind was one of those seeds. My stomach churned. So humanity exists because of that thing? Not exactly, she said quickly. It didn't create you, it only left traces, fragments buried in your DNA. Most of your people will never awaken, never know. But you, her gaze met mine, filled with pain and love. You were born with the exact resonance needed to open the lock. That's why I called to you. Why I was sent to stop it. I swallowed hard, nausea rising in my throat. All this time, you were my protector and my executioner. Her expression twisted. I never wanted to be either. I just wanted to know you, to love you without this hanging over us. The raw honesty in her voice broke something in me. Despite everything, despite the lies and secrets, I believed her. I reached up weakly, brushing my fingertips against her cheek. We'll find another way, I said, my voice shaking. We'll stop it without killing me. Before she could answer, the ship jolted violently. Warning lights blazed across the console. Kayla cursed, wrestling with the controls. It's following us already, she shouted. The spires have launched constructs, energy-based hunters. They're fast. I forced myself upright, gripping the edge of the co-pilot's seat. Through the forward viewport, I saw streaks of crimson light hurtling after us, weaving through the upper atmosphere like serpents of pure energy. As they closed in, the entity's voice surged inside my mind, triumphant. You cannot flee your destiny, vessel. Come willingly and no one need suffer. Ignore it. Kayla snapped. We're almost to orbit. The ship's hull rattled as one of the constructs struck a glancing blow, scorching the plating. Alarms wailed. Kayla banked hard, sending us into a dizzying spiral. Can you operate the turret? She demanded. I swallowed my fear and slid into the gunner's seat, my hands trembling as they gripped the controls. The targeting display flickered to life, showing the crimson constructs weaving around us. Now's a great time to learn, she barked. I gritted my teeth and fired. Beams of blue-white energy lanced from the ship's cannons, slicing through the void. The first few shots missed, but then I found my rhythm, blasting one of the constructs into a cloud of dissipating light. The victory was short-lived. 3 more surged in to take its place. Sweat dripped into my eyes as I fought to keep them at bay, the entity's voice hissing inside my mind with every shot. It didn't scream when its hunters died. It laughed, a deep, resonant sound that chilled my blood. Kayla pushed the engines to their limit, the stars beginning to stretch into streaks as we neared escape velocity. We're almost clear, she shouted. A crimson construct slammed into the hull, sending a shudder through the ship. I was thrown from my seat, my head striking the. Dazed, I barely registered Kayla dragging me upright, her arm wrapped protectively around me. Stay with me, she begged. Through the haze, I saw something impossible. The construct hadn't just damaged the hull, it had merged with it. Crimson veins of energy spread across the metal, pulsing like a heartbeat. The entity's laughter filled the cabin. Vessel, even your escape serves me. Come home. The glow from my implant intensified, responding to the spreading corruption. My body moved against my will, reaching toward the infected section of the hull. Kayla grabbed me, straining to hold me back. Fight it, she screamed. You're stronger than this. I can't. I sobbed. It's inside me, Kayla. I'm part of it. She slammed her forehead against mine, re-establishing the mental link. A rush of golden warmth surged through me, momentarily silencing the entity's voice. You are part of me too, she said fiercely within the shared space of our minds. And I will not let it take you. You are mine, not its. Strength flooded my limbs. I wrenched free of the entity's control long enough to slam my palm against the emergency purge console. The infected section of the hull blew free, spinning away into the void. The ship lurched violently, but the corruption was gone. Kayla whooped in triumph, tears streaming down her face. You did it. You fought it off. But even as relief surged through me, the entity's voice returned, colder and more focused. Impressive. You resist well. But resistance only delays inevitability. Ahead, the stars bent and warped as a vast shape emerged from hyperspace. It wasn't a ship in any recognizable sense. More like a living wound in reality itself, a shifting mass of crimson and black tendrils. The sight of it made my vision blur and my stomach heave. What is that? I whispered, horrified. Kayla's face went pale. The chorus incarnate, she said grimly. A fragment of the entity given form. It shouldn't be able to leave the planet, unless it's already partially free. My implant burned like fire. The entity's voice filled every corner of my mind, overwhelming even Kayla's link. Vessel, come to me. End this futile flight. Merge and become whole. I clutched my head, screaming. Kayla's hands gripped my shoulders, shaking me. Listen to me. We're almost to the containment facility. If we can get inside, we can cut you off from it completely. I stared at her through a haze of pain and terror. And if we can't? Her jaw tightened. Then I'll do what I swore to do from the beginning, she said, her voice breaking. Even if it destroys me. The ship hurtled toward the dark shape of the containment station orbiting the system's outer edge. Behind us, the chorus incarnate pursued, its tendrils stretching across the stars like a net. As the entity's laughter filled the void, I realized the truth I'd been avoiding since this began. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a war for my soul, and I was running out of time. The containment station loomed ahead like a fortress adrift in the void, its jagged towers silhouetted against the distant stars. Ancient and alien, it pulsed with faint blue light, a relic of the same civilization that had built the lock on the planet below. As our battered transport screamed toward it, alarms blared and warning lights flashed red across the console. Kayla's hands flew over the controls, her face a mask of fierce determination, while I clung to the edge of my seat, my body trembling as the entity's presence pressed harder and harder against my mind. The chorus incarnate was closing fast, its tendrils stretching across the void like living chains. The closer we got to the station, the more violently my implant reacted, surging with heat that felt almost alive. My skin glowed faintly crimson, the pulsing light spreading across my veins like a network of fire. The entity's voice roared inside my skull, no longer coaxing or seductive but commanding. Vessel, stop. You cannot sever what you are. You are me. I am you. I clenched my teeth, fighting to stay conscious. It's in my head, I gasped, my hands clawing at my temples. Kayla, I can't. Yes, you can, she barked, her golden eyes blazing. It wants you to believe you're powerless, but you're not. You're human and Arvex, and that makes you something new, something it can't fully control. The ship jolted violently as a tendril of crimson energy lashed across our hull. Metal screamed in protest, panels bursting into showers of sparks. Kayla wrestled with the controls, swearing under her breath. We can't take another hit like that, she said, her voice grim. I'm going to divert power to the shields, but it'll slow us down. If we slow down, it catches us, I rasped. Then we die. Her gaze met mine for the briefest of moments, and in that glance I saw the truth neither of us wanted to speak. Not if I distract it, she said. My heart seized. What are you talking about? You're its true target, she said quickly, her words tumbling out as she adjusted the ship's trajectory. If I break away in the escape pod, it will follow me long enough for you to reach the station. You'll have a window to get inside before it realizes the trick. I grabbed her arm, panic surging through me. No. You'll never survive out there. That thing, Kayla, it will rip you apart. She wrenched free, her jaw set. I've faced death before. If it means saving you, saving everyone, it's worth it. I won't let you. I shouted, tears burning my eyes. You think I can just watch you sacrifice yourself? After everything we've been through? For a heartbeat, the fire in her gaze softened. You're more important than me, she whispered. Not just to this fight, but to me. The raw emotion in her voice nearly broke me. But before I could respond, the entity struck again, its tendrils wrapping around the ship like a constrictor. The hull groaned, warning sirens screaming as systems began to fail. Through the viewport, the chorus incarnate loomed impossibly close, a vast shape of shifting crimson and black. Its face, if it could be called that, was a swirling void of burning light, and when it turned its attention fully on me, the world seemed to fall away. "Vessel," it intoned, its voice a thunderclap that rattled the ship. "Come home. Merge and end this illusion of separation. You were never meant to resist." My body moved without my consent, rising from my seat, arms outstretched. I could feel myself unraveling, piece by piece, as if my very soul were being drawn toward that yawning void. Kayla shouted my name, her voice distant, unreal. Then a golden light flared between us, shattering the entity's grip. Kayla stood in front of me, her entire body glowing with the same energy that had linked our minds before. Her golden eyes blazed brighter than ever as she screamed in defiance. "You cannot have him." The entity recoiled, its tendrils momentarily retreating. Kayla collapsed to her knees, panting, sweat streaming down her face. I caught her before she fell completely, cradling her against my chest. "You idiot," I choked, tears mingling with the sweat on her brow. "You'll burn yourself out doing that." She gave a weak laugh. "Better me than you." I pressed my forehead to hers, our connection sparking to life again. "Don't ever do that again," I whispered across the bond. "Not unless you want me to lose my mind completely." "Then don't give me a reason to," she shot back, though her mental voice was weak. The ship lurched as the tendrils tightened again.